What's up, everyone? I'm the Kaiju no Kami with...
And I am your favorite macho man, Krelika Kane.
And we are talking about, on this very hot Monday, Zenkaiger episode 15.
It's a retrovolution.
Yes, that.
I have to say, in a two-part, one, I am freaking old, and two, I apparently love nostalgia more than I thought. Because this episode was hilarious. And before he gets into anything, because he's going to be like all cranky and everything like that, he was actually laughing and smirking at some of these scenes. So don't let him fool you and say, oh, this was so terrible. I hate everything Zenkaiger.
Did I enjoy the episode? Yes. However...
Oh, see? Told you.
Well, I have two opinions. There's two aspects of it. I enjoyed the episode as its filler episode, because it was nothing but filler. But that's also my problem with it, is it was nothing but filler. Because we had nothing... As I already said last week, Stacy has lost all credibility for me as a villain.
I will say they had one story element.
But this whole thing, no plot advancement at all. And I'm bored at this point of seeing Emperor do just boom, 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 because that's all he does. He's a one-hit wonder.
Okay, may I?
Hold on, but I liked the aspect of them having the past and different time periods. It was a nice and refreshing compared to just sending the Rangers back in time to the past like they do in most series. So that was kind of interesting. I liked seeing Showa-esque buildings around and certain aspects that was a good callback to older Showa stuff. I liked the monster doing the Ultraman attack when he did his little... the funniest bits for me, we had Zox's transformation.
Okay, before we get into all of that, I need to stop you for a moment. One, we did get tons of character development. Two...
Character development is not the same as plot advancement.
May I? Mr. I'm going to suck all of the air out of the room for 5 minutes.
Well, so?
So, Gigi, Iago, let's just call a spade a spade. Iago is the one who sent out this monster. The reason why I think that's kind of important, even though it's a subtle nuance to the story, is because it shows that, one, he is not just an ornament, and two, he actually consciously thought about sending out a logical monster, because the progression of the episode actually made sense of why you would send out this monster. I thought it was a brilliant and strategic move. Well,
I did like when Badra Shitara and Ijiru were like, what, Retro World? I'm not familiar with that. We didn't send that monster out.
And when Iago comes in and says he sent it out, I'm like, see? We're getting something. It's small, it's subtle, yes, it's filler, but we got something. So, how the story starts out for this particular episode is we have this adorable little boy coming up to the candy shop. And he's looking in, watching everybody have fun, and he's very hesitant. Well, makes sense. He's a new kid in town. He knows nobody. And when he's leaving, we have Retro World come out of nowhere, and he has... Ooh, I have a fan you can use. It has free on it if you're, like, comfortable with
I'm good.
guys
Just
in bathing
continue talking about
suits.
the episode.
All right. So, You're distracting.
Go on.
So anyways, Retro World comes out, and I actually like his design because being a person of a certain age, for anybody under the age of 20, I would say actually under the age of 30, ask your parents. Because they had, the way the monster was set up, it had the old television with the rabbit ears. Mm-hmm. And it had the analog changer on the side that you had to use.
And a record player for his shield.
I was like, okay, well, record players, I don't know if that's necessarily counting as nostalgia, because everybody has flippin' record players these days. I still don't.
We don't own any.
Because I have common sense.
So not everyone owns.
You know what I mean. And personally, I think if you could get a record player, you would. But
no, I hate records. Crappy format. They uncompressed audio, sure, but no.
We live through records. I want 8-track though. But nevertheless.
Okay, Grandma.
Shut up. Nevertheless, when he starts changing things, it's kind of funny because the one dude's talking on a cell phone and it changes to the clunky rotary phones of back in the day. And if you've never used a rotary phone, I am so happy for you, because if you ever made one wrong mistake dialing a phone number on a rotary phone, especially if you got all the way to the last number, and you're like, oh, because at least when you did it with like the newer phones, you could at least like end the call and start over. With a rotary, you had to go toot.
Hey, try calling a radio station to be the 13th caller to win a prize on a rotary phone. Yeah, I managed to do it once, which I was surprised at. That doesn't work well.
So, nevertheless, it was...
Because there is no redial on a rotary phone. Every time you have to go... You're the 7th caller!
Son of a bitch!
You're the 12th caller! We're sorry, you're the 18th caller! No!
Yes, those were the days. But it was kind of funny because, like Kaiju said, we got all these Showa-esque buildings. We got so many different eras of nostalgia. And it was fascinating because Japan's nostalgia, which is somewhat similar to us Americans, you could see how it differed in a way.
Okay, my favorite bit though, when they're all in nostalgia, is when they shrunk the screen to be 4:3, and then the Kikinoids realize there's nothing to be nostalgia about, and they kick the black bars off the side of the screen and like throw out the sepia tone grain.
Yes, I was very impressed with that because the camera work for this, just on their film making and their editing, was brilliant. But so we get through this nostalgia. We actually first get Zox coming down, or Two Kaiser, and he does his Yo-ho-hoi, and Retro World's like, wow, that's a retro-like song. And it was kind of funny because I know of it as more of a retro song, but it's weird because the Yo-ho-hoi is very retro.
Okay.
So he comes down, he starts fighting him. The rest of the Zenkaigers walk down all the stairs because it's all retro.
Why didn't they just jump down?
I have no idea. Probably because the suit actors really didn't want to jump today.
I don't think the Kikinoid suit actors can actually jump.
No. So they're all fighting. Retro World has the coolest attack possible. He does do the Ultraman attack. And you see all these like funky like 70s and 80s radio waves that you would see in like Doctor Who as showing magical powers, and everything changes. So everybody basically, of all the 6 Rangers, changes
Their
design.
suits turn into old-looking clothing.
Basically, the Kikanoids reminded me of the Village People. That's where I got the reference for Macho Man earlier. Because I'm like, Macho Man. And then, Kaito...
Well, here we go.
Is the perfect representation of the 70s, but, and this is for some of our friends, so I apologize if nobody knows the reference except for a small group of people, the wig on Kaito looked better than the wig in Samurai Cop. And if you don't know what Samurai Cop is, it's a terrible movie. However, if you must watch Samurai Cop, which is on Tubi if you're actually adventurous.
Watch the Riff Tracks version.
Watch the Riff Tracks version because at least it's hilarious. But the guy's wig, it's so 70s looking, it's terrible.
It's like they just cut Sylvester Stallone's hair off from Rambo and tried to glue it onto that dude after they dried it out for 7 years.
Yes. But Kaito's wig actually looked really well done. And it fit his face and everything. Zox has, like, basically, he's looking like the Bee Gees or Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta era, because he has all the fringe on his suit.
I was going to say it looks like something out of disco.
Saturday Night Fever, Bee Gees.
I have no idea what those are.
You were abused as a child. You don't know anything about the classics. Do you know what Grease is?
That's that musical that killed John Travolta's career, right?
No! It didn't kill his career. He did great things after that.
Then why did Tarantino have to make him relevant again?
That's because the 80s killed his career. That was in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Saturday Night Fever has the theme song, staying alive, which is done by the Bee Gees, which they had fringe on their outfits, which is like Zox.
Oh,
so everything's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
What does Bacon have to do with this?
Nothing.
Is he in the movie?
No, it's just a joke. Basically, I'm doing the nostalgia references that this entire episode did, because this entire episode did random ass references that made no sense unless you were a person of a certain age. But nevertheless, your favorite...
Okay, great grandma.
Shut up. Your favorite part of the episode comes next.
Well, I already said later on when they kick.
No, Zox.
When Zox is turning his wooden wheel gun, like fake
so he has
gun,
a pirate ship wheel,
and he's just turning. He's like,
And no, he's dancing around. So he's doing all of the motions that he would normally do. And everybody behind him, all the other Rangers are like, and Juron has the best line of the episode. Is anybody going to tell him? And he finally notices after he shoots.
Or tries to shoot
it. And he's like, and gets all shocked, which was hilarious. So they're all arguing.
Well, then his ship turns into a regular ship and goes
regular
crashing.
pirate ship, yes. So he goes running away. Everybody's distracted. Retro world disappears.
I was disappointed that Kuttner and Ricky didn't actually turn into any retro things.
I think that was outside the scope of their budget.
Well, everyone else was affected. I thought they would.
I think it's outside the scope of their budget.
I think what they should have done is they were reverted back to their kid forms, looking retro, and then Zox is like, oh my god, you're back to normal. That means if we beat this monster, though, are you going to return back to the SD world things? And had this little conflict of, well, do I want to beat retro world or not?
You're putting way too much effort into this. And I am actually going to reference something all of your Twitter haters say. This is a kid's show, honey. That is too elevated for a kid's show.
Oh, okay. So when I complain about stuff, and then I give some ideas that would enhance the episode, suddenly it's like, nope, that's not gonna.
Hey, I'm trying to channel all of your Twitter haters so that when you post this out there, you can show like a screenshot.
They're not gonna watch this. They're Twitter haters. They wouldn't watch a video where it would actually make them like, oh damn, we were totally wrong. No, they have to go in as blind as possible so they can continue just pulling that shit out of their ass.
Honey, that's what you do. I love you though. Hey!
Anyway.
Abuse!
Back to your linear progression of the episode.
So I actually liked the kind of like middle part of the episode where Ya-chan helps the little boy, his name is Rio, become a little bit more comfortable because he's sad about being entirely now more lost than ever because everything is different. It's not just he's in a different town. The town looks completely new. But I do have a question though. Where are his parents?
They're probably working in America.
Okay, in America, it's illegal to have latchkey kids. And that is, once again, an 80s reference. So then we get to them finding Retro World. Because Retro World has the smart move.
First, he makes them all feel like...
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. He has the smartest move in the world. Get it? But, the world... Well, never mind. Anyways, he has the smartest move that he is going to utilize nostalgia to make everyone just lazy. Because one thing that I've noticed when you get older, I feel like this is just like a therapy session. But as you get older, you're like, those were the days. Music was better when I was younger. Movies were better in the 80s and 90s. Horror was this. Something was that. Music didn't suck. In my day, we didn't have Justin Bieber. We had 9 Inch Nails. That type of thing. And they do all of that.
Yeah, but in our day, we also had the Spice Girls and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears.
But they're still around today. Well, Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake.
And I'm sure in 20 years, the people around today will be there in 20 years.
Oh, I know. So, basically, that is the flaw of nostalgia. Back in my day. So, it was actually...
Back in my day, we had to walk 20 miles to use the outhouse because it wasn't connected to our house.
Back when I was younger and there were actual payphones, you didn't have cell phones.
What's a payphone?
I'm actually disappointed that they did not have...
Actually, that would have been...
They didn't have, like, VHS tapes or anything. Because the most, like, retro thing they had, and I think you remember this, the television set that kept on flickering between color and black and white.
Okay, so I did like... Okay, after they are putting nostalgia and, like, Kuka Noise are all like, yeah, remember those times when I got my ass whooped on? And I was getting my ass whooped on, and I was lonely, and I was lonely. Wait a minute. What to be nostalgia about? Those weren't good times. And then I kick away the black bars on the side. I like when Sachan calls them on the phone. Mm-hmm. And then when Vroom tries to leave, he's trying to take the phone with him, and he's like, whoa.
Yeah, because it's in your mind with a cell phone. You can walk anywhere with it. An actual landline, you're stuck by that cord.
And then they go and they defeat the monster.
No.
They totally waste the Time Ranger gear.
I actually thought it was kind of cool that, because I remember when they did the Turbo Ranger one, and they totally screwed up what Turbo Ranger was. They actually used the Time Ranger function, and it made sense.
Well, it made sense, even though that still wasn't really a power of the Time Rangers. But, see, okay, no, let me put it this way. That would have been when they used the Die Ranger gear because of Kyoto Ranger's ability to rewind time.
Drunk Ranger could rewind time?
Yeah, his star was the Time Star.
Oh, I forgot about that. But
So,
I don't think they can use the power of an individualized ranger. I think they can only use the...
but on one hand it was kind of cool, but I felt like I was just like, oh, that's it for Time Ranger. That's all we're getting. Okay, cool.
But I did like when you saw Retro World getting beaten up, how he looked beaten up, had like a swollen eye on the television set. I was like, wow, he's seen better days. So then we get the mech battle.
Well, yeah. Then we get the mech battle, which had these weird... I don't know.
So basically, what Retro World does, because he thinks he's being smart so people can't communicate to each other, he throws a power, or he throws like a spell, so to speak, for lack of a better way of explaining it, that Zox, or Tukaiser, and Juron Gowon, they can only speak in nostalgic idioms. So like bodacious, etch-a-sketch. It's just random things that are nostalgic things that have happened. And so it was kind of funny because you can tell the person who wrote the episode was older because half of those things nobody in this day and age even has a clue about.
That's the one thing I'm wondering though, was that just that over time took those words to translate them as best they could from what the Japanese
Well, I wouldn't be surprised about that. Because...
and that's where my problem is coming from, is I don't understand how they were speaking in old speak because I don't know exactly 100% what they were saying.
See, I can't say it's old speak. They're using, for lack of a better way of explaining it, they're using memes. But they're using memes from like the 70s and 80s, but they're just using the text version. There's no picture. So it made sense. And obviously, without knowing exactly what the core script would be translated to, like, properly, not that Overtime doesn't do it properly, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like when they had to do blues puns from Kyoger. How they had to kind of translate them to make them kind of Americanized in a way. Because if we just heard the blank slate pun, it would make no sense to us.
Well, and that's where I think my problem is that I just don't get how it made no sense to the Japanese. When they were like, I don't know what they're saying.
Because at the same time, it could have been, how I took it, from what their reaction was to what your reaction was, is if you don't know idioms, even nostalgic idioms or just random gibberish, you're not going to get it, so that's why they freaked out. So you're kind of sitting in the shoes of Majine and Vroom, that had absolutely no idea what they said, correct? Which is the point. Because Majine and Vroom did not know what they were talking about. The two mechs, like the giant mechs, they...
It's fine. I can't explain what I mean.
Well, and so I got it because, to me, it made sense. It was the randomness, because the other thing that you have to think of cultural-wise, and I'm not thinking of just culture versus American versus Japanese, I'm just talking about culture of generations. Even though you're a millennial, you're very stuck in that millennial section where I'm at that cusp. So I understand Xers, boomers, all of those, because I primarily worked with people who are 20 years older than me for decades. So I get all of those idioms, whereas millennials, and you're a geriatric millennial, I'm sorry, And Gen Xers, they're not going to get it because they
Gen Xers?
Gen Zers, sorry.
I was going to say, like, what you just...
Gen Zers wouldn't get it because it's not part of their cultural narrative. And that was one of the really cool things I liked about this episode, is because it does demonstrate how different the world has changed in 40 years, let's say.
Okay.
Which is what I think's really cool about this episode.
They beat retro world, everything goes back to normal. However, one thing we did skip over was a scene with Stacy.
Yes, and the reason I skipped over that is because I figured it'd be easier to leave that separate. So Stacy sees these break dancers. They're in the flamboyant 80s outfits, which, God, I'm so happy we're past that decade. And they're all doing their dancing and everything, and he's watching, and Yak-chan with Ryo comes up because they're just wandering, and she's like, why don't you join them? And Stacy looks at Yak-chan, and we get like kind of like a clip.
She reminds me of my mother. Clearly, though, his mother's going to be someone we know because they blinked out her face.
Well, that's how it always is. It's called television. They do it in every show. If you are ever wondering, who is this mysterious person behind the veil? Oh, you're going to find out soon.
And it's somebody you already know. That's why they blinked their face out.
But I'm curious, we don't know too many female characters. Primary one is going to be Yak-chan.
Well, we also don't know how old Stacy is. It could be that Yak-chan actually is his mother.
Okay. Oh my God. I do not want to think of the Jerry Springer elements of this. Ow! Don't break my glasses, Dick.
But it could actually be that it is going to turn out that Yak-chan is his mother from decades ago.
Okay, no, I can't think about that because there's too many things that start popping up in my mind that I don't want to picture together. This is why I did not go into sciences, because I failed biology.
Well, you see.
I don't want to know.
Andy's ma.
Marcus!
Anyway. So yes, Stacy's apparently having nostalgia of his mom for Yak-chan, and we don't know who it is, but it's clearly somebody we're going to know because their face was blanked out.
However, I enjoyed this episode. It was so cool. I enjoyed the retro aspects of it because I got it. And I could see so many different things. I'm like, wow, I didn't think about that in a long time. And I will give props to Overtime. Because when they were subbing it, the really cool thing that they did is they had their normal fonts.
Oh, when they changed the color.
They changed the color, when they went to like the truly retro, those were the days element, everything changed to like a sepia yellowish gold color to kind of change the mood.
To match what was happening on screen.
And so that was really cool, and I appreciated that because I understand a lot of people like Nihon's glitz and glam when it came to subbing, which sometimes that can be distracting, but I really appreciated Overtime's subtleness because it still helped frame the mood.
But yeah, I enjoyed the episode as a standalone. I just wish we would finally get some goddamn plot development. That's all I want. Just some goddamn plot development.
Are you okay? You seem to be like getting like angry. At least it's not like PlayStation crashing angry.
But anyway. That's all I've really got for this episode. Anything else you have?
No, I'm curious to see what we have with our magnetic experience that will be coming next week.
Another filler.
But nevertheless, if this has to be a standalone type filler series, while disappointing, it wouldn't be the first one, but at least it's better than Real Soldier.
And Q Ranger.
And
actually, what gear would work for a magnetic monster next week?
What team you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not Go-Go 5, I can guarantee you that one.
When we Mega Ranger, when we Ginga Man. Maybe they do Bioman or one of the Bioman could work.
Well, seeing as how they're taking it kind of literal with some of the series, Bioman could work because biomechanical could defeat the magnetic. Let's see, what other series could...
You know what would have also been, they should have done in this episode? Battle Fever J. They would have worked really well using that, like, having something of Battle Fever J related in this episode. Because of the whole nostalgia, Showa stuff.
I think if they're going to do nostalgia, I think even Kaku Ranger could have worked. Because Kaku Ranger, for some reason, even though it was in the 90s, was stymied in nostalgia.
So they did a poll recently of, like, each... in Japan of your top favorite, what's your favorite series of each decade? Kaku Ranger was the voted number 1 for the 90s. It was Kaku Ranger, Go-Go 5, and then Die Ranger.
You must be depressed and triggered.
No, the real one is for the 2000s. Alba Ranger and Geki Ranger were dead last.
No way.
Yep.
What was number 1?
Number 1 was Deca Ranger.
Okay, that's fair.
Go Ranger was like number 4.
Well, I think Deca Ranger, because we're going to get so off topic, but...
We'll stop in a moment.
The reason why I think Deca Ranger was number 1 is because also SPD.
But
they did such a good job with SPD, the American...
Well, Deca Ranger is also one of the top favorites in Japan.
Even though I don't see how the toy sales could have done well for that series.
But, and then for the 70s, 80s, because they just combined that, Gold Ranger was number 1, and number 2 was Sun Vulcan. But in last place were Flashman and Maskman.
Where was Jetman?
Well, Jetman's 90s.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of it as...
Old Ranger was dead last for 90s.
Well, that makes sense.
With 5-man just above it.
I'm happy Go-Go 5 was so high, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because Go-Go 5 is an underappreciated show.
And then Time Ranger they had put in the 2000s, which I think was like number 4 or 5.
And Time Ranger came out in 2000, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm confused. Oh, no, never
So
mind.
they basically did it 0 to 9, whereas instead of where I do it 1 to 10. But anyway,
on that long-winded note, what was your favorite part of this episode? If you've watched this episode, and are you still watching Zenkaiger? Have you given up? Have you gotten into the camp of Kaiju no Kami that it's that will they, won't they, hate it, where he has to post regularly on Twitter and trigger people? Or are you like me, where you're just enjoying it for the fun ride? Because what the hell? We got nothing better to do in 2021. We're still living in a pandemic. So if you like what we do, please continue to watch us. You can like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. With the bell notification, you can get notified on all videos, some videos, or just occasional videos. And if you want to follow us on YouTube, obviously if you probably already subscribed, but just in case, it's Kaiju no Kami. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, it's all Kaiju no Kami. We have Patreon, which is Kaiju no Kami. And also, lastly, you could look us up on our website at creativitybydesignllc.com. Until next time, bye.